Welcome to America's spaceport, the Kennedy Space Center in Florida, where a Dragon spacecraft sitting on top of a SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket will launch Crew 7 to the International Space Station.
You can see Jasmine Moghbeli there with her visor down.
And the suit inflated, right?
Exactly, yeah. So she is in the midst of her pressure check and looks to me like everything is going well. But of course, we want to make sure that those suits have good integrity in the event that we would ever have to use them on board the vehicle. There's Andy Mogensen sitting to her right. His visor's still up, so it looks like perhaps his test has not been initiated yet. And I believe they do perform these one at a time. So Andy has a few minutes there just to kind of relax. You can see the Danish flag on the left of Andy's suit because he is a European Space Agency astronaut, and he is from Denmark.
And now you're looking at mission specialist Satoshi Furukawa giving us a big wave and a big smile and the thumbs up. Last but not least, mission specialist Konstantin Borisov was selected to be a cosmonaut in 2018, and this will be his first trip to space along with Jasmine. And here they come, the astronauts walking down the hallway at astronaut crew quarters. 3 astronauts, 1 cosmonaut of Crew 7 waving as they go by into the elevator, headed down to the first floor. Behind them, Joe Acaba, I believe that's Norm Knight with the Flight Operations Directorate.
It is.
Core on countdown, crew walkout and suit up room departure is in progress on schedule.
It's impossible to not smile when you're watching them walk out with those smiles on their faces, isn't it? It's contagious.
And here they come, Crew 7, taking their first steps outside before their journey to space.
Again, look at those genuine smiles. You really can't hide the excitement.
From left to right, we have Konstantin Borisov, Andreas Mogensen, Jasmine Moghbeli, and Satoshi Furukawa.
Here we go. You can see some of the NASA administrator there, Bill Nelson, Bob Cabana's there, the associate administrator. We mentioned Pam Melroy already. Everybody's there to cheer them on, send them on their way.
Let's listen in a little bit. We've got a microphone down there.
Что, прочувствовали? Да, классно. Волновался? Нет, вообще нет. Вот сейчас вот стоял, чтобы вас видеть, расплакаться немножко,
Of course, the astronauts have been in quarantine for the past 2 weeks, so that's why they're standing a set distance away from their family and loved ones.
Yeah, that's right. We want to make sure that, of course, we don't carry any viruses or anything like that with us to the space station. So everybody has been in this strict kind of quarantine protocol leading up to the space flight, and they're continuing to keep their distance now. You see Alex Gerst, German astronaut from the European Space Agency there, and Takuya Onishi, a Japanese astronaut. You can see those blue suits toward the front, helping out, escort the families and with the guests. Both are space veterans, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Red right here. Red right here. You see here.
A double kiss from Jasmine, probably to her 2 girls.
Yeah, and I heard Andy speaking Danish to his family.
Yeah, you speak, you're fluent, right, in Russian and Swedish, right?
I do, yes. I speak Swedish, pretty similar to Danish, so sometimes I can understand what Andy and his family are saying.
Did you catch anything?
I did. He said, "Vi ses, we'll see you." Yeah,
oh,
I didn't catch what he said at the end there. But Andy's family actually lives just a street away from me, so I see them quite often.
How about that? Yeah. Well, that's nice.
Here they go. Doors are closing.
Well, this is a good time to talk about the playlist. Jasmine, is going to be queuing up some Stevie Wonder, Whitney Houston, some hip-hop. She's a big hip-hop fan. And apparently so is Andreas, so that works well for the commander and the pilot, who will be in the '01 Tesla. Satoshi says he'll crank some 80s Japanese pop music. And I put that on my own music app just to hear a little bit. Unsurprisingly, a lot of synthesizer. Just like 80s in America. And then Constantine says he's going to crank some System of a Down, Pink Floyd.
Look at that. I see Jaws twin girls. They're wearing little mini SpaceX suits.
Oh,
I have one of those for my daughter as well. They are adorable. They look exactly like the real thing.
No kidding.
You can see them just over at the window right now.
I see,
looking in at Mom. Riding on Dad. Yeah, those playlists they have for the Teslas and perhaps, we on the Soyuz, we create a playlist for inside the vehicles. We're in the vehicle for so long before things get busy in there that we have some music, and it's so nice to hear a couple of the favorite songs from each of your different crewmates, lots of different styles of music, and those songs that are really important to you.
We got a social question. If you have one, send it to us. Hashtag AskNASA on YouTube, Twitch.
See those outfits with
I
the
see them.
hood and everything. Yeah,
Yep.
the hood for the helmet.
That
They're
is
really
too
great.
Cute.
Got to dress like Mom. Be ready for game day.
Oh, absolutely. And I imagine that helps a lot with this moment. Of course, they're quite young. But, with children of a certain age, understand that there's some risk involved, and astronauts have to have that conversation with older children.
Yeah, I'm sure it gives them something to identify with. They're wearing the same outfit as Mom today and ready to cheer her along for her launch.
So in the first Tesla, we've got the closeout lead and 2 suit technicians. In the second, the commander and pilot. And the third, the mission specialist, 1 and 2. And bye they go. Bye.
I think you need a longer bye.
You nailed it.
Thank you.
Here we go with our commander and pilot, Jasmine and Andreas, making their way out for a view of the rocket.
And there it is, that traditional lean back. You got to try to take it all in, and it's a tall rocket.
And they've got as I understand it, a very rigid back to the spacesuit, which prevents them from actually turning their heads up. So you've got to turn your entire upper torso.
Right,
and
right? That with the helmet being integrated onto the suit, it adds that stiffness as well. I remember these moments getting ready for my launch, and it's interesting because people ask all the time, how do you feel? Are you scared? But the thing is, we are so well trained. We've gone through all of these motions so many times that even for me, when I was well into sitting in the vehicle, looking at my displays, monitoring things, hitting buttons, you're going through all of these training protocols, and it just feels like another simulation. I actually had to remind myself that this one was going to be real, that it was going to end a little bit differently.
All right, there are 2 mission specialists, Konstantin Borisov and Satoshi Furukawa.
Taking it in.
They're getting a lot of looks.
Yeah.
Big wave, thumbs up. It's interesting about that elevator when they go in. If they were to ask, which floor would you like? There's actually a button that says space.
Yeah.
They changed the 255-foot level to space. Which floor? Space, please. Oh, yeah, right away. Let me punch that up for you.
Always the best button that you want to press. But only the 4 of them will be making that final step to space. Everybody else has to come back down the elevator.
That's right. And there's Jasmine Mobelli, the commander, and Andreas Mogensen, our pilot, making their way across the crew access arm into the White Room, where they'll get into the spacecraft. But first,
Core on
sign that
countdown.
meatball.
Crew have arrived at the White Room and are preparing for ingress. We are on schedule.
Yeah, that other tradition that we talked about. There's the last signature that they'll have to dole out before they get all strapped in.
There go our pilot and commander carefully getting in. They don't want to mess up that seal, so you'll see him take a lot of time to crawl over that entryway, the side hatch. And here come our mission specialists. On the left, Konstantin Borisov, and on the right, Satoshi Furukawa.
They're even dancing their way down the hallway.
Oh, they're loving it.
Oh, another tradition. A lot of times our astronauts and Konstantin here, you can see taking the name tags of some of their ground support personnel, and they'll be flying those to space with them.
That's got to be really special for those technicians.
Absolutely. I mean, they're playing such a critical role, you know, especially those connections you have with those people in those moments leading up to your launch. Really has an incredibly strong bond you have with those people. Any good astronaut or cosmonaut always has a Sharpie with them. I don't think there's a Sharpie pocket on this suit, but the technicians are handing them Sharpies to get this job done.
Yes, in fact, it's on the to-do list. Make sure that the Sharpie is in the white room. And you saw briefly Satoshi holding his arm up, and those zippers. They have zippers on each arm, zippers on the leg. Those got to be zipped up, nice and secure, so that that pressure suit functions exactly as needed.
Yeah, there's actually 2 layers of zippers. That's probably just the external one, so there's a redundancy there. The main pressure is held by the lower set, the more internal set of zippers. Another critical component of the way we do
Core on
things at NASA.
countdown. Seat 1 and Seat 4 are beginning their ingress into Dragon. We are on schedule.
You know, safety always comes first. We always have a lot of built-in redundancy to each system, including the spacesuits, to make sure that we can keep everyone on board safe. Another big difference that I'm sure Andy and Satoshi are feeling right now is the difference of the seats between Dragon and the Soyuz spacecraft. You know, you have a much more natural kind of sitting position in Dragon, a lot roomier for you to stretch your legs a little bit. You know, their heels will actually be kind of clipped in. Not clipped, but there's a little runner there that you slide your heel in. It's a little notch in the boot. You slide that onto the boot plate to help secure your feet for the launch and landing process. But while they're sitting there on the launch pad, they can take a foot out if they want, stretch a little bit, and move around.
Kind of like a ski boot and a ski, or a, you know, cycling shoes that have those.
Yeah, kind of like that cycling shoe, but a little bit of a different mechanism. It's just kind of a front to back slide. You can see Andy looking up at the displays there. Looks like he's configuring something or checking something on the monitors. And Satoshi and Konstantin getting strapped in. They have their little satchels, that's what they call them, on their knee there. They have a tablet, so they have procedures on the tablet. If they have a few small items that they might need during the ascent, they can have them in that little satchel as well.
So there they go. With a big wave as they rotate the seats upwards so they can be better configured for launch, of course, and also they'll be able to see their display panels directly in front of them.
Yeah, the main reason why we want to launch and land in that position is for the G forces, the gravitational forces that we experience. You know, get up to 3 or 4 Gs on launch and landing, on a nominal launch and landing. And when you take those G forces through your chest, so when you're on your back, those forces are coming straight down, so they're hitting through your chest. That's much easier to deal with than if you were sitting straight up, then they were hitting your head. That would really drive the blood out of your head, and that's why, you know, if you're flying a jet, that kind of
Dragon
thing.
SpaceX, seats are in the launch position. You are go for Section 2, suit leak check preparation.
SpaceX Dragon copies, proceeding to Section 2, suit leak check preparation.
Now about 2 minutes and 30 seconds until launch. Next milestone, we're looking up for stage 2 LOX load to complete. Additionally, shortly after that, we'll hear gas closeout begin, isolating the feed lines from the different gas systems for the Falcon 9 rocket. Those will get vented overboard through the umbilicals and the strong back itself.
Stage 2 LOX loading is complete. Dragon is in auto idle.
Confirmation that stage 2 LOX load is complete. Dragon and Falcon 9 fully fueled.
Gas closeout has started. Expect loud venting.
There's the gas closeout call that we expected. Additionally, we will be in auto idle. This puts the rocket in a state the flight computers understand before it takes over, making sure the transition to final countdown is smooth. Coming up at T-minus 1 minute, we'll hear that Dragon is in countdown. Its computer will switch to countdown mode. We'll also hear that the flight termination system on Falcon 9 is armed.
Falcon 9 is in startup. Dragon's in terminal count.
Dragon's flight computer in countdown and configured for launch, and the flight termination system now armed. Less than a minute until liftoff today.
Dragon, SpaceX,
this flight termination
go for
system.
launch.
Dragon copies, go for launch.
You heard it, Crew 7 getting the go for launch, just 30 seconds away for an on-time launch. At the time of liftoff today, the space station will be flying 260 miles over southeastern Iraq.
T-minus 15. K-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Engines full power. And liftoff. Go Falcon, go Dragon, go Crew 7.
Endurance ascends, an international crew destined for the International Space Station.
Stage 1
That's
propulsion is
1.7
nominal.
million. Good calls from the propulsion officers here. Propulsion's nominal. 1.7 million pounds of thrust on Falcon 9, taking Crew 7 to the International Space Station, now traveling almost 300 miles per hour.
Nominal power and telemetry.
We are just about T plus 45 seconds into the 7th rotational crew mission on board Dragon and Falcon 9, and right now the vehicle is throttling down to help us pass through the period of maximum dynamic pressure. There's the call out that Crew 7 is now moving faster than the speed of sound.
Max Q. Stage 1 throttle up.
Confirmation we have moved through max Q and are throttling back up.
Copy, 1 Bravo.
Heard that call from Jasmine on Crew 7, as well as confirmation from the ground. The call out for 1 Bravo means we are in the second and final abort mode for the first stage, but continuing to get good performance. We've got engine chill on the second stage MVAC engine. We will then be looking for MECO, or main engine cutoff, where the 9 engines on the first stage will cut off ahead of the first and second stages separating. Then the single Merlin vacuum engine on the second stage will ignite. We are now coming up on 2 minutes into the flight, the spacecraft traveling over 2,000 miles per hour.
Really incredible nighttime views of Falcon 9 and Crew 7 on your screen right now. So as Leah just mentioned, we are keeping an eye on a couple of critical flight milestones coming up back to back here.
Stage 1 throttle down.
Those are going to be MECO. So main engine cutoff now that we're throttling down stage 1, followed by stage separation and second stage ignition.
Main engine cutoff. Stage separation confirmed.
Copy, 2 Alpha.
MVAC ignition.
So there you heard and saw MECO, stage sep, and hopefully you heard Jasmine call out for the 2 Alpha abort mode just before second stage ignition.
And of course, this is the second stage, powering Dragon on its flight, now traveling almost 4,000 miles per hour. Over 3 minutes since launch, the second stage will continue to power the spacecraft. And our first look at the crew inside. We'll be standing by for SECO. That's the next major milestone for this second stage engine. That comes shortly before 9 minutes into the flight, so we've still got some time on this engine.
So right now, while Crew 7 makes its way to orbit, our first stage booster is making its way back to land. So you may hear the call-outs here on the net shortly that we are in the middle of our boost back burn. Right now, stage 1 is coasting.
Dragon, SpaceX, trajectory nominal.
Good call-outs there that Dragon is on the right track. And confirmation from Commander Jasmine McBelly.
Continuing to see good performance on this lone Merlin vacuum engine on the stage. Also, as we've heard, nominal trajectory. That's the guidance, navigation, and control officer here at SpaceX stating that we are on the correct path. Dragon's pointed in the right direction. The second stage continues firing until, like we mentioned, second stage engine cutoff at about 8 minutes and 50 seconds into the flight. Right now, we are 4 minutes and 30 seconds since our on-time liftoff, now traveling at 5,000 miles per hour. This single Merlin vacuum engine can provide over 220,000 pounds of thrust in the vacuum of space, doing its job to take our crew to the International Space Station today.
Dragon, SpaceX, trajectory nominal.
More good news from Mission Control.
Acquisition of signal, Bermuda.
So with that Bermuda call out, we actually know that the ground station transmitting this flight data back to us is coming from Bermuda.
The crew is currently pulling a little more than 1 G as the second stage engine continues to propel their flight. Continuing to hear good calls to the crew, now 5 minutes and 30 seconds into the flight, traveling at 6,400 miles per hour. Again, we will continue to see the second stage fire for about 3 more minutes. Shortly after second stage engine cutoff, we will see it separate from Dragon, which will continue its journey.
Now, at this point in the flight, we are just about 15 seconds away from stage 1 entry burn start. At this point, the center engine on Falcon 9 will be lit for just about 10 seconds to help us slow the vehicle down as it re-enters the Earth's atmosphere. That's not the only thing helping us on reentry, though. The first stage sees high drag on reentry, which scrubs roughly 70% of the velocity by the time the landing burn begins, which you just had great views of on the left-hand side of your screen. Florida Space Coast beginning to come into view in the background. All while Crew 7, of course, on the right-hand side of your screen, lit up by that MVAC engine, continues on its way to orbit.
We are now coming up on
Nominal.
continuing to get good calls as we reach almost 7 minutes into the flight. Crew traveling at 9,400 miles per hour. Again, we still have about 1 minute, 45 seconds left with the second stage propelling the crew.
And of course, we are also expecting that landing burn start from Falcon 9 any second now. Great views.
Stage 2 FTSO saved.
Great news there that Stage 1 has successfully landed back at Landing Zone 1 in Florida.
And Stage 2 continues to propel Dragon and our Crew 7 crew members. We now are coming up on SECO, second stage engine cutoff. Again, looking at that about 8 minutes and 50 seconds into the flight. Everything continues as planned today, now traveling over 13,000 miles per hour. Again, we're looking for eventually a good orbital insertion at which we'll be traveling. Good calls here at Mission Control in Hawthorne. And we are standing by for second stage engine cutoff.
Copy, Shannon.
Heard that call for Shannon. That is the call out for Shannon, Ireland, the final abort zone.
MVAC shutdown.
There's audio confirmation, and you can see on your screen that we have had successful second engine cutoff 1 of our MVAC engine.
Dragon SpaceX, nominal orbit insertion.
Dragon.
And good news there that Crew 7.
Nominal orbital insertion.
Dragon SpaceX. Launch
Awesome
escape
to hear.
system disarmed.
Fantastic.
That's the first look at the crew, now in microgravity, confirmation of a good Earth orbit insertion. We are now coming up on 10 minutes into the flight. Of course, we saw second stage engine cutoff, and you're actually getting a look at their zero-G indicator there. We'll stand by for them to tell us a little bit more about that shortly, but we are also standing by for second stage separation from Dragon.
Acquisition of signal in Finland.
So as Leah mentioned, right now, Dragon and Stage 2 are still attached. Great views of that zero-G indicator there. And what we're doing right now is basically letting any residual dynamics of the vehicle settle out prior to separation. We are expecting that separation event in probably about 90 seconds. Crew looks like they're having a great time up in space, too.
And as we stand by for that separation, shortly thereafter, we'll be looking for the nose cone to begin deploying. That command will be sent, and we'll see it open shortly after. We'll need the nose cone to open to expose those forward bulkhead thrusters, as well as the docking mechanism with which they will use to link up with the International Space Station. After their ride, it's almost 30 hours long. Again, we had liftoff right on time today at 3:27 a.m. Eastern Time. The crew making a smooth journey into orbit. It's now been 11 minutes, 20 seconds since that liftoff. We had confirmation of good orbital insertion, and we are standing by for second stage separation from Dragon.
Dragon separation confirmed. Crew 7, on behalf of the Falcon team, I'd like to welcome you to orbit, and we hope you enjoyed the ride on Falcon 9. Space travel is difficult, even though you make it look easy, so thank you for trusting us to get you up there. It's not a bad way to spend a day in the office. Stand by for words from the launch director.
Hello, Crew 7. This is Launch Director here on Countdown. On behalf of the entire SpaceX Launch and Recovery team, I'm honored to welcome Dragon's first ever all-international crew to orbit. Счастливого пути, Gotor Iterashai. Godspeed, Crew 7. Cheers.
SpaceX, thanks for the ride. It was awesome. On behalf of Andy, Satoshi, Toshi, and I, we'd like to thank the multitude of people who've led us to this unique moment. We may have 4 crew members on board from 4 different nations, Denmark, Japan, Russia, and the USA, but we're a united team with a common mission. We hope the do serves to benefit our beautiful home planet and those on it. As you said, human spaceflight requires an unparalleled level of vigilance and rigor, and we thank all those who prepared not only us, but also this truly impressive spacecraft for flight. Finally, to our families, the greater burden of our choice to explore. Thank you. Go Crew 7. Awesome ride.
You saw the zero-G indicator floating around. Tell us what it was.
I did. Well, that, Daryl, was a 3-toed sloth. Important distinction, not a 2-toed sloth.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so apparently this is one of Andy's kids' favorite animals. And as a family, they were even fortunate enough to see one in the wild in Costa Rica last Christmas when they were on vacation. So it was all kind of fate leading up to this, I think.
How about that? This is Andy Mogensen.
Andy Mogensen, the pilot. That's correct. That's right. And I guess his family calls him the slowest person in the world. So another reason why this 3-toed sloth had such meaning for all of them.
I'm always the last to leave the house whenever we're going anywhere. Personally, I think it's with good reason. But they say I'm the slowest person alive, which is also why it's a 3-toed sloth, not a 2-toed sloth, because apparently that would be too fast for me. So welcome to space, Sasha the sloth.
And Dragon, we appreciate the introduction to your zero-G indicator and noting that that is probably officially now the fastest sloth ever.
This is Satoshi. It's nice to be in space, and I'm very glad to see happy faces. 日本の皆さん、国際宇宙ステーションへ、再びして着実に仕事をしてきます。
Yes, I'm very excited. First of all, a few words in Russian, then in English. Всем большое спасибо, огромное восхищение тем, как мы прокатились на ракете, мы в космосе. Невероятно. Полет в космос — это результат действий скоординированных тысяч людей, которые работают в разных странах. Всем большое спасибо. Роскосмос, НАСА, ИСА, JAXA, SpaceX. Моим друзьям и семье большое спасибо. Thank you very much for all your hard work. SpaceX, Roscosmos, NASA, ESA, JAXA, and all the partners involved in manned space flight. That's a proud example of how much we can achieve working together in harmony. Let's continue. Cool. Thanks a lot to everyone, to my family as well. Thanks.
SpaceX copies all. Thank you for the kind words. And Jaws, if you are ready to copy, I do have some upcoming words on.